Welcome to the Tick Tock Podcast. The clock is always ticking, so let's synchronize our watches and dive in. I'm your host, Callie Brigham, and I'm here to help you make time for what matters. Hey friends, welcome to our last official Tuesday episode of 2023. What a year it's been. Okay, it's really just been a couple of months, but what a couple of months it has been. So thankful that you have been on this crazy time management journey with me. And one of the things that I really attempt to do to the best of my ability is not to share theory. I like to share from my own personal experience, from my own personal life, from what I have tried, what works, what doesn't work. So that really is a commitment that I have for all of you, is that I want to come to you with things that I feel that they do work in the real world. And what I'm going to talk about today, as we say goodbye to 2023, we say hello to a new year, is something that I had to look back and realize it's been 7 years in the making. So if you want to lock in with me, lock arms with me with something that I've been doing for 7 years that I think has made a significant difference with my time, with my intention, with my emotions, then let's do it. Let's do the thing today. And what it is, so this is going to be an exercise. This is an all skate. I want everybody to do this if you haven't already and share it with your friends if they haven't already. This would be a really fun thing to do and discuss over coffee or a glass of wine or all those Christmas desserts that are still lingering around. And that is a word of the year. So, have you ever done a word of the year before? Did you love it? Did it work? Did it resonate? Do you not know what I'm talking about? Did you forget your word a couple days or weeks into the new year? Well, we're going to talk about, I believe, the power of having a word of the year. So this is personal, by the way. I know that there is, I think like Merriam-Webster has their dictionary word of the year, just like Pantone has their color of the year. But this is your own personal talisman, your own personal word of the year. It doesn't have to be woo-woo. So if you're thinking, oh, I don't know if this is for me, keep listening. This is also not the same thing as a New Year's resolution. I don't know that I believe a whole lot in those. I believe a little bit more in a New Year's maybe commitment, a New Year's habit. We're going to get into those as we go into this next year. It's also not designed to restrict you or put pressure. I notice that sometimes perfectionists, self-proclaimed, don't like to do something like this because they feel like, oh no, now I've got to live up to something. I'm also going to say that when I originally heard about this idea a long time ago, I naturally resisted because that's the kind of person I am. I am not a bandwagon person. I am freedom and choice. And so when everybody's doing it, I don't like to do it. And I guess that's healthy in some ways. But I will say that this has made a huge difference. So, to answer your question, does this make a difference? Yes, I believe it does. I'm going to share with you my last 7 years worth of words, not because you need to take any of them or in case, I don't know, in case you do need a word, you can always borrow it. But I am going to share what they are and I'm going to share to you with you why they have made a difference for me and why I continue to do it year after year, why now I encourage my kids to do this. And I have lots of conversations with friends about it. I realized in one of our previous episodes that apparently I like to have deep conversations with friends. And I just thought everybody did. I thought that we sit around and talk about books we read, things we're learning, podcasts we listen to, and things like words of the year. Really, what it's designed to do is to highlight the intentionality and focus and setting your tone for the year. I talk a little bit about this in episode 5 when I talk about the 3 intentions. We'll circle back a little bit on that. And if you want to catch up, that's a great episode to listen to. And I have another freebie for you. It's going to be in the show notes. It is a link to a free Canva template so you can have your own special word of the year template, just like me. All right. So we're going to talk about 5 tips, 5 ways, 5 activities that you can do to nail down your word of the year. Now, the first thing actually sounds counterintuitive. We're going to reflect on this past year. So many times I'm guilty of it too, that we are forward thinking. That's not a bad thing, but we're like on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. And it is really healthy to take a breath and to reflect a little bit. Now, reflection can mean that we're thinking about the great things, the highlights. It can also mean that we're thinking about the challenges of this last year, the hurts, the pains, the whole deal. And so I want you to look back, and you don't have to take a long time to do this. Hopefully, everything that I share with you can just take a matter of minutes if that's all you have. But you're going to look back and you're going to take stock of the past before you look ahead, because there's a lot to be learned from it. There's some things you don't want to take into the new year, but maybe you're the kind of person where you think, I have learned from others what I don't want to do. Maybe you did not have a stellar childhood and you're thinking, I'm not going to repeat what my parents did. Maybe you had a job experience that was not great and you thought, if I'm ever the boss, this is how I'm going to treat people. Well, the same thing goes for that you can take some of the bad things, the negative things that happened, and say, I'm not carrying those into the new year, but I will carry the lesson, and I will carry being a purposeful person for positivity, for somebody who says, I'm going to make a difference this year, even if it's just for me. And by the same token, you could say, wow, I loved that this happened. I loved that I experienced that, and I want more of it. So I think the first thing that you're going to want to do is just take a minute and look back over the last year. What lessons did I learn? Who did I learn them from? What do I embrace? What do I reject? It is choice. That's the beautiful thing about the word of the year, and especially because it's individual, it's choice. Speaking of that, number two is actually choosing your word. Now, is there a process? Yes and no. Yes and no. Again, I'm freedom and choice. So I will tell you, sometimes you find your word, and sometimes your word finds you. And I can't tell you exactly which one it's gonna be for you. I've experienced both. There have been times and seasons and years where I have just dug in, like, okay, for weeks, like, let's just do the thing. Let's find it. And I'll tell you a few ways I do that. And then there's been times, like, I will say this year, where boom, there's the word. Like, it's highlighted, it's on a billboard, it's like on the blimp passing by me. I can't miss it. But there is a process in it. And if you need to find your word, and again, this is a word that doesn't necessarily describe you, but it's describing what you want your year to embody, what you want your year to at the end say, this is who I am this year. It's not necessarily my name, but it's what I'm known for this year. It's what I grew in this year. It's what I was focused on this year. So pay attention. Here are some things that I do. I pay attention to conversations and I pay attention to repetition. If there is a conversation that just keeps coming up, whether I initiate it or not, what is it about? What's the topic? I pay attention to songs that I'm listening to. Are there songs that resonate with me and oh, it just gets to my heart? Maybe it's in the title of the song. Maybe it's a word in the song. Pay attention to those things. Pay attention to books. What jumps off the page? There was actually a book, and I'll tell you what it is when I share all my words. There was a book that it was in the title of the book, and I thought, that's it, like eureka, that's it. And it is okay if it takes a little while. You may even want to do things like plug some stuff into Chat GPT. I'm all about that. See what AI has to say. Maybe you want to check out Dayspring. Dayspring always allows you to create a word from the year with answering a few questions. You can do the online quizzes if you want to. So start to pay attention. Pay attention to what seems to catch your attention, what seems to stop you in your tracks, what seems to happen over and over and over again, especially if it's happened 3 times. If you've seen a word, if you've talked about a word, that could be your word. Also, of course, for me, this is going to be a spiritual act too. So I'm going to pray about it and I'm going to seek God and I'm going to ask for wisdom as well. So you can ask others for guidance too. Keep in mind, this is probably a word that's going to resonate with areas of growth in your life or aspirations or goals that you have. It's not something that you want to do that feels so far fetched. Now, I will tell you that sometimes your word can challenge you. And I have had a couple of those. So it's not that this, you should say, oh, I've got this. As a matter of fact, it should push you a little bit. It's going to make you feel uncomfortable a little bit at times. It is going to make you step out of a comfort zone, but you don't want it to be so counterintuitive that you're already shutting it down. So again, there's not like a perfect way to figure out your word, but those are some resources and some ways that I've found it through conversation, through songs, through books, through internet searches. And now that AI is on the scene, you can do that too. What you can do as well is make a list. Maybe you come up with 5 or 10 things, put it on the list, and every day check the list. And if I we did this with baby names when we were naming our kids. My husband and I both made a list. We put it on the fridge and we had like kind of magic tickets, or I guess when you're the jury selection, we were able to like cancel out and be like, no, not that one. So put it on the fridge or put it somewhere you see it. And if you feel like, nah, that's not it, just cross through it until you narrow down to the last couple and try them out for size and see. Most people do come up with their word of the year before the end of the year. However, there have been times when I've gone into January 1st, January 2nd, and I'm not quite there. It's okay. Rest in it. It will come. Nobody said you have to have it on New Year's Eve and then you post it on January 1st on your social media. It's okay to sit and rest in it. Okay, number 3. So number 1, reflect on your past year. Number 2, it's time to choose the word. Choose your word. Number 3, I'm going to give you a few examples here that you can use and how certain words can translate into practical action. So keep in mind, the word needs to also have action to it. So here are my words. Are you ready? All right. My first word ever was surrender. And the action that I took in that was actually to start my surrender prayer. I should do a whole podcast on that. It's how I start every day. I walk around my house, I have my hands open, and I go through my whole entire day and I surrender each of the things that I'm going to do, as minute and silly as it might be. I surrender that to God. That was my very first word, and I have still done that to this day. My second word was today. Today. Now, that's not a verb. However, it was for me. It was being present in today. It was knowing I only was promised today. And it really helped me to stop thinking about the past, stop thinking about the future, and just be in that moment of today, especially in that season when the kids were a lot younger. Number 3 was possibilities. And I was reading a book called The Art of Possibility. And oh my word, mind blowing, especially when the author talks about his dad in an internment camp in World War II and how you had a choice. Well, guess what? That was my word for 2020. What in the world? Oh my goodness. Going into 2020, my next word was love. And that challenged me too. I think I have them out of order. I think love came before. These aren't in order. That's okay. But my next one was love. And I was scared about that one completely. I thought God's going to give me people that are unlovable and I'm going to have to learn how to love them. Oh no, oh no. But then I realized that this word I don't have to manipulate. I'm going to learn how to grow through it. And for me, again, in my faith, love is one of the fruits of the Spirit. And a fruit doesn't make itself become a fruit. A fruit just has to stay attached to a healthy vine. And then the natural inclination of it is to bloom from there. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to stick close to God and I'm going to be able to, through him, show love and be love. My next one was truth. That one also scared me to death because I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to fight battles. And then as I was continuing to think about this action, I was like, you know what? Wait, it says the truth will set you free. There's freedom in that. So I had to, I will say there's going to be years that you're not going to like your word until you realize why that was your word for you. Another word that I loved, I wanted this one for more than that year, was light. This was after the pandemic. Oh my goodness. I was like, there's so much darkness. I think this was my one for 2021. I was like, there's so much darkness in this year. And I want to be the light. I want to look for the light. I want to shine the light, etc. My word from this past year has been bloom. I mean, who knew? I didn't realize I was planted and then this was going to flourish from this. And I'm not going to tell you what my word is for this year yet, this next year, although I do have it. So, number 3 is understand that your word is going to want to translate into action. And so, number 4 is implementing your word. What is that going to look like? How will you take that and strategize that into your daily life? How are you going to put that into your weekly plan? How are you going to create that in your brain drain? So, the action, you have to understand the action is number 3, and number 4 is implementing that. So maybe you are going to say, these are going to be some of the activities that I could do based on my word. For me, that was the surrender prayer, and I was going to implement that in the morning. So it was this process of feeling like, and if I go through our numbers already, reflecting on the past year, I felt out of control and trying to control. Then I chose my word, which felt like surrender. Then the third thing I did was say, is surrender an action? Yes, this is how I can surrender. Number 4 was I implemented it. So I started to have that morning surrender prayer time. And let me tell you, the very first day I did it, I got an opportunity to try it out. I'll share with that with you when I talk about my surrender prayer in another episode. And then number 5 is to stay accountable to it. I want to emphasize the importance of revisiting your word throughout the year. And here's some ways that I do that. I took those wine markers and I wrote them on my mirror in my bathroom. And they're in different colors and they kind of frame my face in my bathroom. And I have them and I haven't erased the previous year. So I have all 7 words up there and I wrote them in different colors and different styles because I also believe your words are going to build on each other. So it's not just that one and done, but it's the word now I'm going to add. Now I'm going to add this so that I am a person of multi levels, multifaceted, and that I'm not leaving behind the things that I wanted to learn. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, and I'll post this in our TikTok community, but I have words of the year on my bracelets. So I've got bracelets off of Etsy and they have my words here so that way I can just look down. It just is a reminder to trigger. I write it at the top of my journal when I do my 3 intentions every week. And yes, there's exciting news coming from that. Also, my wallpaper on my phone. And I've got that free Canva template for you. You can get in the show notes and you can have that on your phone as your wallpaper or as your screensaver or however you want to so that you see it. And then staying accountable with that and reflecting on it means that you don't just put it away after the first week, but that you think out, how can I remind myself that this is what I'm going to put out there? This is what I'm going to, the energy that I'm going to put out, the energy that I'm going to receive. This is going to be part of my prayer time. This is going to be part of the songs. So, what I do actually to stay accountable is I also do things like implement a playlist. So, I'll think about songs, I'll Google songs that have to do with that, put that on my playlist. I will look up in the dictionary all the different definitions. I'll get verses for that. I'll put those different places as well so that I can see it. I got to see it in order to see it, right? That's what vision is. That's what faith is in this whole experiment. And then the other thing I want to encourage you is to engage with other people about it. So share your word, share your story, share it in our TikTok tribe community, share it on social media, tag me in it, let me know what your word is. I'd love to know. Maybe there's a shout out in a future episode. That would be really cool in a future episode for you all to share your words, and I will let everybody know what they are. Have those conversations with people, encourage them to deep dive. I have done this with some of my girlfriends, with my neighbors, with people that I work out with. And when we keep bringing it up, it's like, oh, yeah. Have I done that today? Have I lived out? Or am I doing my best? Am I focusing on that? Or have I forgotten it? And so I want to encourage you as you look forward, as we look for more in 2024. I was calling it 2020 more, right? Or 2020 soar, or whatever you want to call it. I'm excited for the new year and the transformation that your word might bring. And I want you to know this could create unexpected opportunities. I also want you to know it's okay if you try your word out and you don't like it. I've had friends that said, you know what? I don't like that word. I think I'm going to change it. Awesome, girl. You can change it. Awesome, guy. You can change it after a month. You can change it. I have friends that have every 6 months they come up with a word because they say, I need something else to resonate with. So you have permission. This is to serve you so that you can serve others. So don't forget, go into the show notes, get that free Canva template so that you can have something pretty to look at and know that I am for you. I am for you for your word for this year. So just recapping everything, reflect on your year, choose your word, with that, think about, is that a practical action? Implement that. Map it out now as you're going into the new year if you already know your word, and then stay accountable and reflect on that too. All right, I hope that this encourages you, that if this is something you've always thought about doing, that you're going to jump in. If this is something you've been scared to do, don't be scared, girl. We're in it together. If this is something that has not worked in the past, maybe these tips can help you. So put on your headphones, listen to the things that you need to, open your eyes to what's around you, and then take that word, plant it in your heart, and watch it flourish. Watch it bloom like my word is for this year. All right. Well, as 2023 comes to an end, again, thank you for being part of all of the things that we get to do here together. Please reach out. You can connect with me on social media. You can connect with me on my website. All of that is in the show notes, as well as lots of fun things to come in 2024. God bless you. Thank you for joining me on the TikTok podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a 5-star review. Your feedback fuels our mission to help you master your time. Set your alarm for our next episode, and until then, make every moment count.